breaking that black barrier every single day, every weekend, 24/7. It does not matter.
Tell them what breaking the black barrier mean, man. What they look like?
What is black, man?
What is black?
Copper Color Productions, man. The Copper Color King, King Cash, Morals and Money, man. Let's get it.
Black King, stand up for understand what black is. It's the essence, it's the culture. We've been on this earth, you heard? The Bronx was called for Apache. Huh? The Bronx was called for Apache, man. Oh, last breed, bro. We bringing it back, last breed.
Really forever flying in this bitch, man. For the ancestors, baby. For all the ancestors out there, baby. We breaking that black barrier.
What's up? We tapped in, man. We are tapped in. It's the Copper Color King, man. We tapped in. I hope everybody had a good weekend. You know, calm vibes, not too much going on. I hope everybody had a safe weekend. A safe weekend. We all know the 4th of July just passed, so you know things get, you know, around the holidays, the holy days, things get a little iffy here, you know, in my environment. Things get iffy here in our country around the holidays. It's so funny too, because every time they do the fireworks and everything, it just brings me back to Independence Day. And all it does is it resembles like gunshots to me. I don't think of fireworks as gunshots, but it just reminds me of what could have been happening in, you know, the gun smoke, guns going off, everybody shooting, you know, shooting in the air to celebrate their independence. You know, they got us popping firecrackers in the air to quote unquote celebrate our quote unquote independence. We all know though that holiday ain't for no independence, man. There's no holy days out here right now that we could say that were invented to celebrate the independence of colored people in America. But we're not going to talk about that. I hope you checked out the Reconstruction Era series that I got going on right now. A lot of people had stuff to say in the comment section about those. We're going to get back to that. But today, I want to narrow down on this whole Bering Strait land bridge, Mongols coming to America, Native Americans, Siberians in America, Black indigenous Americans. Like, I want to just narrow all of this stuff down so that we can understand, man. This stuff, when we talking about breaking the black barrier, it's never about color. It's never about color. You know, we breaking the black barrier because we want to show people this stuff is bigger than color, bro. History is bigger than color. And I like to make this correlation all the time because folks really think that since the beginning of the time, slavery was entirely based on a white and black standpoint. But that's not entirely true. You see, we have a period in history, right, that consists of several migrations of several different groups of people coming out of one place and going into another. All this just to conquer. This was all to conquer, right? Today we're going to talk about the Mongols, or these Mongoloid Amerindians, Native Americans. We're going to talk about them, their bloodline, where it comes from, and exactly what route did they take, and what did they bring over here to the Americas, right? Like, how do we have traces of every religion here in America before the birth of Jesus Christ? Every religion. Hindu, Buddhist, paganism, Islam, Christianity, Jew, all that. It's just that at this specific time, we didn't recognize these religions as what they are today. Well, most of, like, to start, most religions, right, have pagan ancestry, right? Like for Islam, they have Vedic roots. We're going to talk about that Vedic stuff too, Vedic roots and where it comes from, right? And even with Christianity, like Christianity is just a branch off of Judaism. And then before all of that, we had stuff like serpent worship, sun worship, you know, cannibalism, emerald worship, star worship, the constellation, mad different forms of worship, you know, some against the true ways of the Most High, and some that actually stood by the true ways of the Most High. If you checked out the Mound Builder series, and we spoke a lot about the serpent worship and how that connects to Moses or the Most High. We spoke about sun and moon worship and how most folks who portrayed themselves as gods was just putting out straight up blasphemy. And what is blasphemy? Blasphemy is basically the idea of portraying yourself as something, right? That's basically not what it is, right? The like man walking in as God. That's blasphemy. It's blasphemy. And just to give you guys some like information on this, right? This is what the Incan and Aztec and Olmec civilizations started from. Different folks out here claiming that they gods, right? Claiming that they the rulers and they the son of God, but the whole time that ain't what it is, Jack. That ain't what it is. And it's so funny too, because I saw a video called The Golden Horde by Asir, Duke of Tears, and in that video he speaks of Mongols and Tartars being Moors, black people. Let me show y'all something, right? Check this out, and this is why I got the slideshow up. They got Genghis Khan in old art depicted as a black man. The Genghis Khan depicted as a black man in old Chinese art, old Japanese art, Mongolian art. They got him depicted as a black man. I got another one for y'all, right? These right here, these are what we could recognize, right, as black Manchurians. These black Manchurians having roots that tied them back to Temujin himself, Timur, the Khans, right? The Khans. Check this out. Let me show y'all. We're gonna get into it, right? Just let me pull the photo up. I got it in here somewhere. They got the Great Khan portrayed as a black man, even in statues, right? And I'm not going to talk. I'm going to show y'all. All right, the Great Khan depicted as a black man in statues. What do we have here? In this slideshow, I got it for y'all right here. If you look at the top, you see all these Russian czars at the bottom, and at the top you have the Great Khan. And what these guys are doing right now is partaking in a pagan ritual. That's what they got documented at below. A pagan ritual devoted to the Khan. Meanwhile, y'all, like I said, this Khan is a black man. So the story goes is that at some point when the great Mongolian Empire, the Great Mongol Empire, was coming to a close, these Tartars and Mongols migrated over here to the Americas, creating some of the tribes that we see today. Here, check this out. This is a picture depicted of what would be sun worship. And Mango Capac, the first Incan emperor, when he came over here to the Americas, because he's not from here, y'all. The Incas are not from America. They are not from America. They just colonized America. The Incas are not from America. Right? They colonized America and they brought sun worship with them. This is sun worship right here in South America, in the Amazon. All right, another thing that I like to make a great mention of is, check this out. These are Australoid peoples. These were some of the first peoples in South America. And no, they did not come via no land bridge. That's not how the Australoid or Melanese got over here to America. They didn't come over here via no Bering Strait land bridge. But yet, these were the Aboriginals that when Mongol Capac came here to the Americas, these are the Aboriginals that he colonized. He colonized them straight up. And I got the book to support this. Like I said, I don't like just chatting about stuff, right? I like pulling out facts, because that's what this stuff is about. When we doing this research, it's not to just talk like we know actually what we talking about, like we've been there. Nah, it's because we do the research. I discover stuff every day. It's nothing new to me, right? Check this out. I got some fire for y'all. Like I said, these people here are the first Aboriginals in America. And like I said, they came over here via the Bering Strait land bridge, right? And this is from an abstract that I found published by Walter A. Neves and Mark Hubby. And the abstract says that genetic studies have consistently indicated a single common origin of Native American groups from Central and South America. However, some morphological studies have suggested a more complex picture whereby the Northeast Asian affinities of present-day Native Americans contrast with a distinctive morphology seen in some of the earliest American skeletons, which share traits with present-day Australasian indigenous groups in Australia, Melanesia, and islands Southeast Asia, right? Comparative morphological studies of the earliest human skeletons of the New World have shown that whereas late prehistoric, recent, and present Native Americans tend to exhibit a cranial morphology similar to late and modern Northern Asians, the earliest South Americans tend to be more similar to present Australasians, Melanesians, and Sub-Saharan Africans. These quote-unquote Saharan Africans, right, they're all talking about these people. They're talking about these people. These being some of the first. They're first, not the Incas, not the Aztecs, and not the Olmecs. These being some of the first Aboriginals here in America. And what color is their skins, y'all? Right? If I'm lying, I'm dying. Like I said, Great Khan depicted as a black man. Right? And they say these Tartars, when they came over here to the Americas, were of giant stature. Giant tall stature. And like I said in the book, in that video I saw by Sir Ducateers, he said they were Moors. Now remember, Moors is not a people. Moors are not a religion, a group, an ethnic group. Nah, Moors just represent black man on earth. Mother Earth, the man of Mother Earth. Just colored people in general. So we all Moors, y'all. That don't mean we Muslim, but we all Moors. Another thing I got to show y'all, right? More proof of black people coming from Russia. In 1625 and 1629, this was the first wife of the Tsar Alexis of Russia. And 3 other czars came from this woman. What color is her skin? May I say it again? What color is her skin? Copper color love. But this is just more proof that supports that there was colored people over there. right? That whole Native American Siberian stuff, yeah, Mongols slid, but a lot of them were dark. Even the Eskimos, they were dark. Some of them. This here comes from the book Origins of the Races of Man. I'm actually going to talk about the origins of I don't mean to use this term so like openly, because it is a derogative term. Eskimo, their origins, where they come from, some of them being black, some of them being fair skinned, but even them descendants of Tartars and Mongols. I saw a video that said that these Eskimos, these colored Eskimos, could have been African. And I laughed. The first thing I did was laugh, because I thought about it. I'm like, bro, you take a black folk from the South or from the Caribbean islands, move him to Greenland or the farthest point or wherever these people lived in the North, and put them there for a week. I bet they won't survive. And mind you, the climate in the Caribbean is almost identical to the climate in Africa. Almost. South America is a little bit more similar. But none of these people would survive in an Arctic climate. So what you mean, Eskimos being Africans? You know how long it would take black people to adapt in a climate like that? Yeah, folks can move to Alaska and whatnot, but I sure as hell ain't. And I can vouch for many other colored folks who live in America today. We ain't moving to no Alaska or where is ice and snow. Right? We ain't doing that. That's not how we get down. But more or less, though, I'm not going to continue to chat, right? I'll get through the slideshow just to show y'all. These are just some images that I got from the Races of Man book. And we have just colored people all over it. And here they go with the baby in the back practicing the flattening of the head, right? A lot of the Aborigines here in America did that. Practice the flattening of the head. Some kept it casual, roundabout, with the thick lips and whatnot, and some they was like flattening the head, which also caused severe birth defects in a lot of the children. It's crazy, right? I don't know. This one even more crazier. This is an Indian in California. This is a black man. Straight up. Like if you stumbled upon him and looked at him, you would be like, bro, what it do, my G? And he gonna know exactly what you talking about. Like he not on some like huh? Like, nah, it's a black man. It's a black man. I love that one for sure, because it just shows the diversity in the Americas. Here you go with the Melanese. The Melanese, like I said, this is in South America. A Melanese phenotype. And people like this, right? And they talk about it in the book. They didn't have no like most high or like even a sun. Nah, there's no sun, no moon worship. Halito, sis. What it do? We about to drop a bomb tonight. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna need you to stick around for this one. But yeah, the folks that practiced all of this right here, cutting bare holes in their face and sticking sticks and stones and bones and all of that in their face, they didn't have no like religious structure, right? These were some of the folks who, in Mongol Capac, or when we talking about the Aztecs or the Olmecs, when they came over here, right? Because we know they come from over east. When they came over here, they civilized a lot of these people and brought them under their monarchy. They brought them under, like, all right, either it was on some like get down or lay down. And for those people who know about history and overall, right, the Mongols, they adopted a lot of that, right? They was on some like get down or lay down, right? And if you didn't get down, let's just say you did rebel maybe once or twice, right? They were generous enough to still let some folks slide if they were willing to come under the Mongol dictator or rulership. I don't know what made them move like that, right? But I guess because they knew that they had it like that, like they was moving on that type of time, they could get whatever they want, whether it was through force or through pacifying, peace, whatever the case may be. That's just how they decided to do things. But like I said, a lot of these people overall, even these people, they were colored. Color being black is not just like an African thing or like a black American thing. Like, I want people to understand it was black people all over the world, bro. Like, all over the world. Colored people all over the world. Right? It's so real that this is why today, if you call a Jamaican or a Guyanese person or a Dominican person or someone that's colored, if you call them black, they're going to tell you, I'm not black. Why? Because they identify with a group, a social class already. We the only folks that don't identify with a social group or class. And this is kind of what Asir Ducateers was hitting at. He telling folks, like, connect with your Moorish identity, right? Gain some type of sovereign citizenship in America, because that's being a Moor is the only thing that connects us to anything. That's kind of what he was talking about, right? Because Moor is like a political term, so to say, in some sense. But yeah, man, yeah. We ain't gonna keep gang banging on bacon, man. I want to show y'all, right? I want to show y'all, because Will does his mother loving thing, y'all. Will does his mother loving thing. I do this, and I ain't talking to brag, but I really do the research. I be finding myself up at all hours of the night. I was up at 4 a.m. the other day just reading, and I stopped for a second. I'm like, hold on, it's 4 a.m. But something just tells me all the time, like, I gotta do this, because I gotta wake people up. We have to wake up, right? Wake up and smell the coffee. Let's get out of this white, black, racial, black versus white, or however people like to look at it. Like, we gotta ditch all of that, because at the end of the day, it's not about color, right? What connects us to the truth is our blood, our ancestral blood, the bloodline. Follow the bloodline, because I'll be damned if somebody came to me and told me, hey, you have Tarter ancestry. Get the fuck out of here. Excuse my French. I am in no way or shape or anything like what any of these brothers could have been. Right? Look at this. This is a painting of Inca kings in the Larco Museum, Lima, Peru. And why this is important, well, let me show y'all. Because these are all of the Inca kings, and we're going to talk about them in this series, right, that held a seat in the Incan Empire, right? And I want y'all to notice something, right? Right here are the first Inca emperors. This first row right here, this top row, not the top, but the second top, where you see the colored people. And the first man standing up, that's Mongol Capac Younger. Mongol Capac Younger. Right? And in the book that I'm about to go through, it's going to point out that this man is not of Aborigine American blood. This man and his people came from Tartary. They came from Tartary. Now, let's freeze for a second. People might say to me, well, Tartary, that's close to China. So wouldn't a Tartar look like these people, right? Wouldn't a Tartar look like them? Mao Zedong and all of them, right? These folks, and just want to point it out, we talking about cavemen, right? Look at that. They look just like Eskimos, right? Sorry to use that term. I just don't know what else to call them. Inuit. Let's say Inuit. They look just like them, right? Cavemen. Sorry. I don't. For those who may be of Asian ancestry, I don't want you to watch this and be like, yo, you wilder, right? I'm sorry. It's some beautiful people. I love Asian people. I love them, right? But you might say, like, well, aren't these Tartars, right? Because that's the same area. The average brain that don't know due to ignorance, will ask that question. First off, they're going to say, what is Tartary? Right? And then if you tell them Mongols, well, they're going to think of Genghis Khan. And then you're going to think about yellow people. You're going to think about yellow people, which is true. You know, a lot of them can classify as yellow, you know, yellow skin, you know, but not entirely true for the ancestry. A lot of them are colored, darker skin, right? Mongol Capac, remember this, they got him as a black man. He came to South America and colonized and civilized the land. And his blood flows through every Incan ruler. They kept it in the bloodline. A lot similar to the Great Khan. A lot similar. And they came over here and they colonized the land, like I said. And with that being said, oh, wait, we're going to pause. This to show y'all. Races of Europe. This is from another book. And it says, our second physical type of the Russian Aborigines is polar extreme from this long-headed red blonde one. We may follow it up on our map by the black tints indicating a prevalent broad-headedness. This is the best exemplified at the two extremes of Russia, and the lap at the northwest in the Kalmuk and the Kyrgyz hordes of the Caspian steppes. The Samoyeds are merely a constitution of the lap type toward Asia along the Arctic. These people correspond closely to what popularly regard as Mongolian. They are all dark or black haired with swarthy skins. They are all dark or black haired with swarthy skins. Right? They have the squint eyes, the round faces, and bullet heads. Squint eyes, the round faces, and bullet heads. Let me show y'all. Oh, give me a minute. Let me show y'all. Right here. These people, they are all dark. They are dark. Russians in Europe, they are dark. Mongolian, they regard as Mongolian, but they are dark. I'm gonna keep emphasizing that they are dark. Where does this one come from? Well, what I got, it says this is from the earliest authentic history of Scythia, the conquest of the Mongol Tartars. And what does this one say? This one, as we continue to go through it, talks about Russia and Tartary, right? The former as the barrier between Asia and Europe. This is the barrier between Asia and Europe. The people here, and let me see if I can find a part where we can start at, right? Let's start right here. First period I catch, which would be, all right, start from the top. From the depths of Tartary, or Asiatic Scythia, has originally issued every torrent of invading barbarians that have overrun Eastern Europe for the last 900 years. Cradled on the gloomy steppes of Mongolia, where the earth for 9 months remains buried under a thick bed of snow, and where the sole vegetation consists of short grass and a few scanty tufts of heath, these hordes of material shepherds have periodically poured down in search of a richer country and more grateful soil, and spreading over the barren plains of Tartary and Russia, have formed themselves into moving empires who for a few years have domineered over the surrounding trembling nations, and then vanished and melted away, leaving little other trace of their existence than the record of destruction. Such were the monarchies of the Huns, the Igors, the Avars, the Chazars, right? We all know who that is. Shout out Curry Mayo if y'all tap into his videos. The Polazzi and the Mongols. While the Ottoman Turks, who are also Scythian in origin and descent more fortunate than their predecessors, have maintained a position in one of the finest countries of Europe for the last 400 years. As the most enduring, most powerful, and the most known, both in ancient and modern times, of these turbulent nations of the North, Russia occupies by far the most prominent part in the history of Scythian empires, and I shall therefore make the annals of that country my principal subject. After tracing the origins of her people, I shall glance at the progress of the Huns, the Chazars, and the numerous other Tartar tribes whose names are only known by their inroads in the Middle Ages, to the countries and inhabitants of Eastern Europe. Then sketching the rise of the Russian monarchy, I shall proceed to the conquest of Genghis Khan, and the Mongols, and the wars of his descendant and still more formidable countryman Timur, with the short-lived domination of Saramisand, if I'm not mistaken. I can't really read that last word. The ancient patrimony of the Tartars is now included in the empires of Russia and China. Listen to this, right? Because this is important. If these Tartars, these tater tots, are colored, right? Hawa, big facts. It say you be tuned in. My boy just be dropping bangers all the time. I just be like, Jesus Christ, man, it's crazy. Like the information he be stumbling upon, I just be like, bro, where did you find this shit at? Like, it's crazy. But back to this though, right? It says the ancient patrimony of the Tartars is now included in the empires of Russia and China. We need to listen to this because this is important, super duper important. Because if the Tartars are black and the ancestry of Russia and China link back to the patrimony, the daddy side of the Tartars, then that means the ancestry of Russia and China consists of black people, right? And it says, but their conquests, which extended over India, China, Russia, Siberia, and Greece, have left upon the inhabitants of both those countries a deep impress of their long and tyrannical sway. And there is great resemblance in many of their customs and laws, their jealousy of foreign nations' dress, appearance, and character, and despotic patriarchal form of government. This patriarchal form of government brings us back to the Incas. Mongol Capac. Blood runs through every emperor who was a male. Most of them, who were males, even up until Charles V, who was a black man. Right? Their ancestry, all males. And they're all males, right? It's important. Like I said, it connects. All of it connects. The same exclusive character decrees forbidden immigration, rigid adherence to ancient usages, and numerous secret societies, political and religious, are alike remarkable in both empires, have been frequently subdued and ruled by foreign invaders and savage warlike hordes, and exhibiting a vitality almost unknown to the nations of Europe, have risen again from their ashes, and emancipating themselves from their conquerors, have flourished again with renewed vigor and prosperity. But the Chinese, who since that time have once more fallen under Tartar rulers, with whom in the natives a war has long been raging, which threatens to tear in pieces the whole celestial empire, appear themselves to have been a Scythian people, and therefore only settled and civilized Tartars. Their manners, say Dr. Latham, in many respects greatly resembled those peculiar to the Scythian tribes described by Herodotus, right? The Greek philosopher, I think he was, right? Well, he wrote stories. He was a quote-unquote storyteller, but he told stories about the different things that he encountered or that were encounters from other people. A German author has pointed out 17 different customs which are identical in the Chinese and Turks. Their language has been proved to be by no means so dissimilar to all other nations as has formerly been supposed. And the dragon, the emblem of Scythia, is used alike by the Slavonians, Chinese, and Tartars, Japheth's sons, and Japhetic tribes. About 600 years before Christ, a horde of Scythians conquered India and one of their tribes, the fair-haired, blue-eyed Gitte, returning towards the north and establishing themselves in the plains to the east of the Caspian, finally settled in Scandinavia, leaving a few who are still called Jits in Hindustan. While in Europe, they became known and celebrated by the name of Goths. So this is where the Gothic peoples come from, the Goths, the Visigoths, fair-skinned, blue-eyed, Roman descendants of the Roman Empire. And in chapter 2, this is where it gives us the information that we're looking for. Now, just give me a second and find the part. Right, it says, until towards the latter end of the last century, when the ambition and conquest of her servants had brought Russia into close contact and opposition with the other more advanced nations of Europe, she had been considered by her contemporaries of the West as rather an Asiatic than a European power too. Russia was Asiatic. Too barbarous and remote to contend with their statesmen in the cabinet or maintain any interest or influence in common with their own, and shut out by the stormy Poland, her severe and rigorous climate, and the exclusive policy of her government from trade or intimate connection with the rest of the continent. She had long been surely and gradually increasing both in power and extent, though hardly known and unheeded except by a few far-sighted politicians, and the neighboring states with whom she was continually at war. This isolation may have been considered to have commenced in the 11th and 12th centuries, when a career of prosperity and conquest, which might have ended in the subjugation of the then darker and more ignorant nations of the West, it was cut short by the savage Tartar tribes who hovered on her eastern border and civil discords of her princes, and later by the rapid conquest of the Mongols, under whom she was long held in slavery. The more ignorant nations of the West. Darker and more ignorant nations of the West. Darker and more ignorant nations of the West. And there's another part that talks about it, and I just want to take this time out to show y'all, right? And they use the word Swarthi. This is the crazy part. They use the word Swarthi. And y'all don't want y'all to think like, oh, he tripping right now. He tripping. What's going on? Nah, it ain't even like that. Like, you gotta understand, like, going through this stuff, it's a lot. It's a lot, and information be all over the place. So excuse me if I take a little minute just to find this one part, because they use the term Swarthi and they're referring to the Tartars, just like in the other book. Just like in the other book. All right, you know what? I'm gonna get back to that one. Right, I'm gonna get back to that one because we're gonna find it. We're gonna find it. It was literally right in my face, right? Right. Got it. So it says, right? But since the power of the last, these invaders was overthrown, the Russian Empire has continued to increase in extent and power till it now embraces a sixth of the habitable portion of the globe, and extending from the boards of the Pacific Ocean to those of the Baltic Sea, and from the icebound shores of the Arctic to the sunny and fertile lands of Persia and Armenia. The greatest diversity is to be found in the inhabitants, right? Because Russia is extremely diverse, that's a fact. Climate, vegetation, and general aspect of the country. the former comprising nearly of 100 different nations. For the handsome Gregorian, the swarthy Tarter. The swarthy Tarter. The swarthy Tarter. The swarthy tater tot. Right, the black Tartar. These Tartars, Mango Kapak, colored people, y'all. Colored people now. Into the real. The real. What is it, man? What we got here, man? We got some fire. The conquest of Peru, Mexico, Bogota, Natchez, Louisiana, and Talameco, which is Florida, in the 13th century by the Mongols, accompanied with elephants, also known as mastodons. Check out the Mound Builders EP, man. We been had mastodons here in America, though. They didn't bring them over here. They were already here, right? They been over here. You feel me? As a matter of fact, they probably came from here and then went over there, because you have more habitable land here in America than you have over there, right? Only the northern part of the Americas contains a cold climate. It wasn't always like that, but that's the only part. Everywhere else, other than the middle portion of North America, you know, the American desert, consists of habitable land, let's say, for an elephant. Just to throw that out there. But in this, right, they basically talking about the origins of like the Mongols here in America, or and how they got here, right? What they brought over here, you know, some of the things they came with, such as the tribes we see in history today. And basically, look, portrait of Moctezuma, a Mongol. Moctezuma wasn't even from Mexico. Moctezuma he came from the north. He used to rock with the Papa Goose. The Papa Goose. Right? He used to rock with the Papa Goose. But you know, in this bad boy, I highlighted a couple things here in the introduction, because off the rip, they started cooking. Man, I'm gonna find a part for y'all. Let's just see. Right, when Columbus on his arrival in the New World inquired of some natives respecting of gold, of which they made their ornaments, they answered him in Cubancanan. It is produced in Cuba, and so full was his mind of Marco Polo in the East Indies that he imagined them to be speaking of the Grand Khan Kublai Khan, or however they pronounced it, who was the Mongol emperor of China and more than half of the population of the globe when Polo was in that country. Right? When Colombo came over here, he already thought folks and them was making references to the Khan. Right? Look, it says New World and the Peruvians and Mexicans only had emerged from this rude condition and had attained the highest state of improvement ever known in that vast continent. The Peruvians and the Mexicans, also links to the Tartars and the Mongols. Right? They possess no tame animals except the llama. You know what this brings me? It always brings me back to this in my childish mind. Me and my childish mind. I love this damn movie. I loved it. And now that I look at them, right now that you look at them, you be like, it all makes sense. It all makes sense, bro. It all makes sense. Right? Because even though Kapak, right, was darker than that, these folks in the movie still don't even look like they black. They look more like if they were Mongoloid. But you know, I'm childish as hell, so of course I'm gonna make this, you know, correlation. I'm super childish, so the population of the New World was estimated by some at 4 millions, by Riccoli at 300 millions. Cusco was the only place that had the appearance or was entitled to the name of a city. Cusco is an ancient city, built way before the times of the Incas. In all the dominions of the Incas, everywhere else the people lived detached habitations or at the utmost settled together in small villages. No annals whatever exists of times prior to Mango Capac. Mexico was the only city that was worthy of that name in the empire of Montezuma. The capital of the warlike Talacascans, the implacable enemies of the Mexicans, only 60 miles from Mexico, consisted of a number of low struggling huts built with turf and stone thatched with reeds, without light except through a door so low that it cannot be entered upright. And though less civilized than the Mexicans, they were advanced in improvement far beyond the other rude tribes. The Talascans arrived in Anahuac with the 7 tribes who left Asia in 1178 before the Mongols had become civilized by their whatever it continues and says. So while the Mongols were dominating the East, people were evacuating and coming here to America. I've been had this idea of this. I've been thought of it like that, because every time they talk about this barren land bridge thing, I think about timestamps. Like, okay, when could they have crossed? They always say, oh, well, millions of years ago they came across the bed. Cap that. Not them Native Americans. Cap that, because they look Chinese. I always said that they look Chinese to me, at least to me. Right? You can't tell me that the Olmecs are black. We're black people, and then say that, oh, they came from over the land bridge and they look like, and they come from where these people. Nah, cap that. A lot of people were leaving during the conquest of the Mongols and coming over here, right? Because we got to understand, they said that they conquered half of the globe. So that means you got nowhere to run and nowhere to hide, especially over there, right? The only place you can come to is the place that has been quote unquote blocked off by ice. You could get lost in America, right? You may not know how to survive in a certain climate. It's possible. That's why some people from down south, they come to New York. I'm never coming back. They hate the snow, right? Just like how we hate too much heat here in New York. If it get too hot, we start complaining. But if it get too cold, we complain as well. But we could deal with it. They can't. Southerners can't. They don't like it. They used to wearing shorts and bubble coats, right? Nah. I ain't even gonna do that though. You can never prove anything from millions of years ago. That's geodating, sis. They call that geodating, and it's all bull crap, because you know how many layers of sediment and earth you would have to dig through to find certain things that will allow you to predate stuff to millions of years. If you could predate something to millions of years ago, then why y'all ain't find the resting place of Jesus Christ yet? When Prophet Muhammad died, where was he buried? Why we don't know where that's at? How are y'all still looking for certain things, right? That happened way more recent, but you could timestamp something to millions of years ago. It never makes sense. Never does, right? And that's why we doing this, because they'll tell you Native Americans are from here or whatever, the land bridge or whatever, and that there was no civilization here in America. But we know to cap that. It's all cap. It's all cap. Right? It was people in America before 1178 AD. Way before that. Who built the pyramids? Let's talk about it. Pyramids were here before 1178 AD. Right, let's continue. When Cusco was founded by Mango Capac, they still popping firecrackers, bro. I hate these niggas. When Cusco was founded by Mango Capac, none of the civilization introduced by Peruvians and Mexicans was in existence. It did not exist. There was no Peruvian when Mongol Capac slid. That did not exist. Right, I told you they cooking. This is just the intro. This is only the intro. Look, listen. Before Mongol Capac appeared, it is not known that there was a brick or a stone house in the whole of America. The pyramids in the Valley of Mexico, Casa Grande, and some interesting ruins at Tiwanaku near the Cuahuti appear to be the only symptoms of art or architecture that existed. The pyramids were here before the arrival of the Inca or the start of the Incan civilization. Let me know if you want me involved. What we talking about? I've been said let's get right. Let's get right. Let's do it. Or send me the link. Shoot me a link. Hit me on Instagram. Send me the link. Let me tap in. Let me support. But yeah, man, there was only pyramids here. Right, like I said, who built the pyramids? Right, who built them? We can't say Africans, because the term Africa didn't exist around the time of the pyramids. No. Can't say them. We're not going to say aliens, because aliens is also a word that didn't exist at that time. Who built the pyramids? It's the question that will forever be unable for us to answer. We can read, but I'm not sure if you'll find an answer to that. Right? But yeah, what else? What else we got? A temple in a considerable comparative degree of civilization will be found at Ptolemaico in north latitude 39 west of Lake Erie, but the people bear evidence of a Mongol origin. Ptolemaico is Florida. Ptolemaico is Florida. By the way, it was mixed tribes in Florida once upon a time. Yo, they will not stop with these fireworks, bro. I can't even make my video. You know what? I'm not even gonna let that throw me off. Ptolemaico is Florida, y'all. Ptolemaico. They have people there with evidence of Mongol origin, and is not far from places where remains of elephants or mastodons like those of Siberia have been found. Bogota and Natchez have irresistible indications of being likewise Mongol settlements. What do we know about Florida and Natchez and the tribes, right? I want to find this map, because this map, I did a video last year talking about the different maps and what we see and how they break down the tribes or whatever the case may be. But for those who don't know, Florida consisted of other tribes other than the Seminole. You had the Miami, right? You had a lot of them. The Miami, you had the what we got? The Timucua. The Timucua. Look, when you see these striped lines, that mean mix, right? Just like over here in Cali on the west, just different tribes, different people, mad at them, right? Not the typical 5 civilized that you normally see on the internet. Nah, mad different tribes, right? But what we know about the Natchez peoples and the Timucua, both tribes, and listen closely, y'all, practiced in sun worship. Both tribes practiced in sun worship. Now, like I said, these Tartars and Mongols were coming over here introducing sun worship to the inhabitants of the land, right? Indoctrinating them into their blasphemy. I don't care what anybody say, more or not. You could be black and you could be practicing devil worship. You is not a part of me. I don't care. Because at the end of the day, I'm not going to worship no sun, right? Because the Most High made the sun. The Most High created that. So I got to worship the Creator, not the sun. So listen, like I said, all that sun and moon shit, man, keep it away from me. But the Natchez and the Timucua, both of them were sun worshippers. Now, like I said, hold your horses. We about to go deeper into it. So as I get to the chapter, let's just make some brief conversation, right? So the reason why Charles V is on the Incan stele listed as one of the emperors is because when he came to colonize, the people indoctrinated him into the civilization, and he became one of the Incan rulers. After him came a bunch of these other Spaniards or rulers that came into South America, you know, finishing with Carlos Quinto, right? And all of them have the blood of these Incan rulers flowing through their veins. What connects them is that they are all Moors. These are all Moors, bro. All of them. So if we take Asir Duke of Tears information, when he talks about these Incans being Tartar Moors or whatever, and then we take the Spaniards, right, and the facts behind them and how a lot of them were of Moorish blood. Check out my last video of the Caraval, the Jewish Caraval family. They were Sephardis, Moorish Sephardis. We could understand how they, you know, how colonization and transferring of the bloodline would have worked, right? You know, a lot of people would think that this is all, you know, they do it in a violent way. I kind of want to negate that. You know, I have a theory that makes me believe that when the Spaniards came over here, these people just gave them the empire. Like, here, you know, we long distance cousins. Pull up, right? Because how else? I just have this idea that a lot of these people knew where to go when they came over here, and that what they telling us is not entirely true. I have a strong belief that they knew where they were going. But yeah, back into the joint. So let's continue. We're gonna go through chapter 1. We're gonna try to get through chapter 1 and chapter 2 within the next hour. I just ask that whoever's tuned in right now, just make sure you rock out with us through the rest, because the information we finna get into, it's about to be crazy, man. I ain't gonna lie. It blew my mind. That's why I was up at 4 in the morning. But yeah, it says, in the year of 1257 of the Christian era, Kublai, grandson of Genghis Khan, on the death of his brother Mongol, was proclaimed Grand Khan of the Mongols and the Tartars, right? People don't know this, but the Tartars were a part of the Khan Empire. They were a part of that. So these colored people, these swarthy people, were under this empire. At the conquest of eastern Bengal and all the provinces eastward of Burempooter, he captured numerous elephants and subjected many sovereigns to deliver him numbers of those animals as a part of their tribute, and from the year 1272 always employed elephants in his armies. We find from Marco Polo that he possessed 5,000 of these animals at the period we now treat of. The wars in which the emperor was engaged before his attempt on Japan were those in Mangi or South China, and against his rebellious retaliation in Siberia. In the year 1280, in a most terrible conflict by land and sea at Canton, the imperial family of the Song dynasty were destroyed, on which Kublai became master of all China and first emperor of the Yuan dynasty. I want to stop right here too, because I don't know, right? I just want to throw this out there. If you got any gamers that tune into this video, if y'all ever played this video game right here, Dynasty Warriors, this kind of has this history in it, right? You just won't understand it, but it's rooted deep in the video game, right? Because they have this character, Yuan Shao, and he was a Mongol. Yuan Shao was a Mongol. He's in the game, and he had this fight, this big war against the emperor of China, who is also famous, and he's known as Cao Cao. Right? They call him Cao Cao, and he also had a long bloodline of rulers. Nah, that wasn't me. That wasn't me. I said that Columbus came over here with Moors. He came over here with black people. His pilot was a black man. Whoa, you just put me on. His brother-in-law was a cartographer. Oh wow. I'll be learning new stuff every day. But yeah, right. Yuan Shao had this great battle against Cao Cao. Yuan Shao was a Mongol, and it could be, right, being that a Mongol, Kublai, became the master of the Yuan dynasty. Yuan Shao's bloodline could also tie him to the Khan. So this also goes hand in hand with the idea that most people in Asia, their bloodline goes back to the Tartars. Like I said earlier, it goes back to the Tartars and the Mongols. But they colonized. He became the first emperor of the Yuan dynasty under the name of Shitsu. At this epoch, Kublai was in possession of a more extensive domination and infinitely great numbers of subjects than were ever controlled by any monarch recorded in history, his empire being much more considerable than that of the Roman Augustus. The continent of Asia, except Hindustan, because they couldn't get up with the Hindus, right? Our copper-colored brothers and sisters from over there, and Arabia was on his sway. Also because, guess what? These were the homes of Moors. The merchants. Jews and Moors. And like I said, the Khan was a Moor. The great Khan was a Moor. Of him it may be said with more truth than the British king is made to say of Caesar. His ambition swelled so much that it did almost stretch the sides of the world. As soon as Kublai found himself possessed of the whole power of the Chinese Empire, he resolved on the conquest of Japan and gave orders to his subjects of Qiangnan, Fokien, Honan, and Changtong to construct 600 vessels. The Emperor Shitsu Kublai, in the third year of his reign, formed a design against Japan and sent 100,000 men to invade it. But the expedition proved very unfortunate, not above 3 or 4 persons returning home with the news. The Japanese Emperor Gulda succeeded his father in 1275, in the 9th year of his reign. On the 21st day of the 5th month, the Tartar general Muku appeared upon the coast of Japan with a fleet of 4,000 sail and 240,000 men sent by the Tartar emperor to subdue Japan. So, and I be seeing this on TikTok too. People be like, oh, like it be them posts, oh, Tartars, ancient ancestry of high technological creations and blah blah and whatnot, just trying to stick to this whole black and bro, you don't got ties to these people. Nah, some people could, due to the having Incan blood, or Aztec blood, or it's possible because they did leave their bloodline here in America. So it is 100% possible. But as far as you TikTokers out there that be making them funny ass videos, nah, they don't add up, right? These was the same folks sliding on the samurais. They was sliding on the samurai, right? If you ever played Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah, that's why I said it could be possible, right? It could be possible. A lot of us have some type of Asiatic, blood. I'm not going to sit here and say it's not, it's possible, but Asiatic could be of different things. Like Guyanese people are Asiatic, right? But that don't mean they Tartar, right? It could be, right? Because they had a big empire, but it doesn't always tie us to the Tartars, right? You could have Asian ancestors that were prior to the Tartars, right? Or after the Tartars, or after the arrival of the Tartars. Like, this is why I'm introducing it, because the year is very important, right? If some of us who know that our ancestors come here from here in America, when you trace the ancestry, it helps us kind of narrow down what the blood can be, because like I said, it's no longer about skin color. This is no longer about skin color. We're not doing this about skin color no more. We breaking the black barrier. Yeah, there's so many different black people out there, but what are we identifying with, I guess, due to our blood, according to our blood, right? Because we can't all say we descendants of Genghis Khan. I know I'm not. I'm probably a descendant of Charles V, right? Charles V, or one of them other European folks over there. I know Deloach is one of my, or Anderson, Andrew's son, are some of my family's blood names. So, but I ain't no Khan. You know what I mean? Maybe Tupac, right? Real spill. But this expedition proved unsuccessful. The kami, or gods and protectors of Japanese empire, for those who play or know about Dragon Ball Z, you know what a kami is, were so incensed at the insult offered them by the Tartars that on the first day of the 7th month, they excited a violent and dreadful storm which destroyed all of his reputed invincible armada. Muku himself perished in the waves, and but few of his men escaped. For the conquest of Japan, the Grand Khan fitted out a numerous fleet and embarked a large body of troops under the command of Abaktan and Vosasin. The expedition sailed from Zaitun and Kinsai and reached the island in safety. The two commanders, from jealousy, treated each other's plans with contempt. They were unable to gain possession of any city or fortified palace. Right, Kansai signifies a celestial city. Another thing to make note of is Abakan, a Mongol. Abakan, the name Abakan, and Wang Sai Xin is a Chinese name. Wang Sai Xin is a Chinese name. Abakan and Wang Sai Xin. They were unable, right, just a fortified place, except one which was carried by assault, and all the garrison were put to the sword. Sometime afterwards, a north wind began to blow with great force, and the ships of the Tartars, which lay near the shore of the island, were driven foul of each other. They held a council, re-embarked their troops, and stood out to sea. The gale increased, and a number of the vessels foundered. The people belonging to them, by floating upon pieces of the wreck, saved themselves upon an island about 4 miles from the coast of Japan. The ships on which the two chiefs and those officers who rank entitled them to command of 100,000 or 10,000 men were embarked together with many others, not being so near the land, did not suffer from the storm. These directed their course homeward and returned to the Grand Khan. Those of the Tartars who remained on the island where they were wrecked, and who amounted to about 30,000, found themselves abandoned and without shipping, arms, or provisions, or even shelter, and expected to be captured and put to death. When the gale had ceased, a large force of Japanese landed on the island. The Tartars concealed themselves from view by the high land, and when the Japanese came in pursuit of them, they made a circuit, seized all the vessels, and stood for the principal city of Japan. This is why I say history is dope, cause bro, what? These Tartars and these Japanese banging out? I don't know about y'all, but I've been doing some research for a while. And I have to say, like, the war between the Mongols and the Japanese was probably one of the most craziest, bloodiest, vicious wars I would honestly say that was fought on the grounds of this earth. Them boys was banging out. And to know that now, colored people, right, these Tartars were some of the folks involved in that situation, that scenario. Oh, that just makes it all the more juicier. I'm not even gonna sit here and lie. If they made an anime about this, that would be fire. That would be fire. Or even a video game. I can't wait till Assassin's Creed Shadows comes out. so I could just murk everything with Yasuke. Right? They say Yasuke is an African, but could he be Tarter? We gonna see when the game come out. We gonna see because they drop gems in Assassin's Creed, man. I ain't gonna lie. But right, they kept the Japanese colors flying and were suffered to enter unmolested. They found few inhabitants besides women who they retained, but drove out the rest. The king besieged the city closely for 6 months, when the Tartars surrendered on condition of their lives being spared. This was in the year of 1264. The Grand Khan, having learned some years after that the unfortunate issue of the expedition was in consequence of the dissension between the commanders, ordered one of them to be beheaded and the other to be sent to the savage island of Zorza, where he was executed by being wrapped in a fresh buffalo hide, sewed tight upon him over both arms, which as it dries compresses the miserable criminal to death. Jesus Christ. The Khan said, y'all couldn't get this together? Y'all can't figure it out? Okay, bet. I'm gonna cut your head off and then I'm gonna suffocate you to death with buffalo hide. Right? Slow and painful. The above are the essential extracts from a long account. In the year 1281, the courier which the Chinese generals sent to the emperor arrived in court in the third moon. He brought accounts that the army, after leaving Korea, right? Korea, Korea, not Korea, Korea, arrived at the island of Kyutichi, and then at the Isle of Tsushima, where they learned that the Japanese, after remaining in great force near the city of Tarikatsu, had withdrawn their troops, not expecting yet to be attacked. Towards the 8th moon, the sad news arrived that the army on its approach to Japan had met with a furious tempest, and that out of 10 persons, scarcely 1 or 2 had escaped from the waves. Father Guibil had co-founded this shipwrecked expedition of 100,000 men with the project of another, which was intended to have been sent under Atahai, but which did not take place. Guibil describes the fleet as being within the sight of Pinghu, Ferrando, when the storm arose, but the Chinese historian says it was near Oolongchan. Possibly the Chinese gave that name to some mountain on the island of Pinghu. Guibil says that the Japanese captured 70,000 Koreans, or the Chinese, and killed 30,000 Mongols. The historian which I have consulted says no more than that they were almost all of them drowned in the tempest. This is crazy because now we see Koreans had played a role in this too. That's crazy. History, man, I tell you. In the history of China, the following account is given, which differs from the above and from the other Chinese relations. In the 6th moon, AD 1281, Khan set out on the expedition to Japan, but he died before he embarked. Atahai, who was appointed to succeed him, did not reach the port till after the fleet had sailed. A storm arose near Pinghu, and most of the vessels were sunk. The officer selected those that were least damaged, embarked in them, and left more than 100,000 men in that island. The soldiers, finding themselves thus basely deserted, elected a chief and began cutting wood to construct vessels which they might return home. But the Japanese made a descent on the island with a powerful army and put them to the sword, except 10 or 12,000 Chinese of the south provinces, whom they retained as slaves, Chinese slaves in Japan. See, the war for Taiwan, right, it go back all the way back till around then, like the war between Japan and China, right? All of this mighty army, only about 3 persons returned to China. 14 ships or 4 masts, and some of them with a crew of 250 men, were equipped and provisioned for 2 years for the voyage to Persia. They embarked in the Pihu River, or possibly from Zhejiang, and passing by the island of Hainan, they kept along the coast of Cochin, China, to Sampa, which Marco Polo had previously visited in the year of 1280. I want to show y'all who's in Cochin. I just want to show y'all the people that's in Cochin. Right? Not them. Right? These folks. These are Cochin Jews. That's the Cochin Jews. Dodge the African hijack. Right? These are the people of Cochin, right? Cochin, quote unquote, China. These are the Cochin Jews. And y'all see how they stepping already, right? Mixed with some, you know, Middle Eastern folks. Definitely. That they colored. They colored. Right? So could those people also have links to the Tartars, right? Let's go into the second chapter. Right? In the second chapter, they talk about how when they came into Peru, right? Let's see what they say. I shall relate, says Garcialo de la Vega, what Pedro de Cieza de Leon told me that he heard in the province where the giants arrived. Right? Like I showed y'all. See? And people want to say I be bull crapping around, man, right? They call me a pretendian, all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. What they said, they had giants. Moorish giants in America. The inhabitants encountered Moorish giants in America, like I told y'all. That's just the depiction. That's the artwork. A picture tells a thousand words, right? In a picture you could tell a story, right? And being that they were documenting things via writing, you know, because quote unquote no writing systems were out there at this time for the Aboriginals, the best way to tell a story was to leave it on paper, paint it, put it on a rock or something, right? They see a rock, ooh, rock, ooh, artwork. Nah, for real though. They see the rock, ooh, art, ooh, artwork. Me draw, me carve painting, me carve artwork with stick and stone, me make fire. Nah, I'm just fooling around, but yeah. Giants. They affirmed, said he, in all Peru that certain giants came ashore on this coast at the cape now called St. Helens, which is near the town of Puerto Viejo. Right? Because if wherever Puerto Viejo is, right? This is where they made landfall. This is what they saying. This is where Mongol Capac and his folks them made landfall. Where's this? Okay. Right? That's bringing us to Central America. All right, so maybe I'm not looking in the right spots, but hold on, let's continue, right? Those who have preserved this tradition from father to son say that these giants came by sea and kind of rush boats made like large barks. Rush boats made like large barks. Rewind. Go back to a part real quick where they talking about the boats. They talk about the boats of the Mongols and what they say, basically like what kind of boats they came over here on and whatnot, you know. It's important to make this correlation because, right, we understand how we can connect the people, right? And I just want to, it's another part where I gotta find the part again. Sorry, y'all. Cause they had a certain term for the boats, that these Mongols built. And they mentioned it in this chapter, if I'm not mistaken. Right, they were built in a manner that they could with difficulty be sunk by leaks. Right, they were strong. He built them to be strong, and it's his term that he uses for them. All right, more or less. Another thing that we're gonna have to double back to. I'm gonna find it, like I said, because I don't like spitting game without game. I like putting game on game because it's all about having game, right? But they came with a kind of rush boat that they were so enormously tall that from the knee downward they were as high as common men, that they had long hair which hung loose upon their shoulders, that their eyes were as large as plates, and that other parts of their bodies were big in proportion, that they had no beard, that some went naked, others were covered with the skins of wild beasts, and they had no women with them. So you already know, if you got a group of hombres that slide into your vicinity with no shorties, yeah, they not there to be friends. Because if you want to make friends, you're gonna come with the friend makers. Girls make the best friends, right? They the friend makers. They make babies, but they also make friends. I love it. You're not gonna slide somewhere with the intention of making friends and you come over here with all dudes, right? That's kind of spook if you think about it. That's kind of spook, and I'm sure the Most High in his right sense of mind will not sit here and approve of some nonsense like that, of a bunch of grown men traveling on a boat probably for days, right? Days in and out with no shorties. Only time I'm doing that is if I'm taking a group vacation with my homies. And I'm sorry, this is not to disrespect the ladies that are out there, but if we plan on linking shorties wherever we get where we going, right? We gonna colonize the shorties. That's the type of time Mongol Kapak was on. Promise y'all. He came over here to America and was like, check this, right? I'm gonna come with all my homies, and we gonna come here and we gonna colonize all the shorties. We're gonna take everything, colonize the people, make this land ours. We're gonna even bring our golden horde with us, because we got all this gold, right? The Mongols and the Tartars controlled pretty much the majority of the world. That's why they always make this connection that the Mongols had this ancient civilization that consisted of flying cars and shit like that, whatnot, like this straight up chatting beer fuckery. But yeah, they were big in proportion. They had no beards. Some went naked and some were covered with the skins of wild beasts. No shorties with them. After landing at the Cape, they established themselves at a spot pointed out to them by the inhabitants and dug very deep through the wells of the rock, and which to this day supply excellent water, right? The wells dug by these Tartars still supply excellent water to South America till this day. Not till this day, but till the publishing date of this book. These giants lived by the rapine and desolated the whole country. Desolated. They say that they were such gluttons that one would eat as much meat as 50 of the native inhabitants, and that for a part of their nourishment they caught a quantity of fish with nets. Why is this important? I just want to try to make this connection again, right? Now, when I'm reading this Races of Man book and they speaking about the Eskimos and the Inuit and they lifestyle and whatnot, like look, like they licked babies, they didn't like water. It's a lot, like the way they ate, they were gluttons, right? And it's not a jab, right? But they just used to eat a lot, right? They didn't clean their food and they ate a lot. They ate so much meat, So much whale fat, and sea lion fat, and whatever the case may be. They ate so much meat. I'm trying to find a part for y'all. That. Oh, right, and sun worship. Right, let's not forget sun worship. Sun worship, what we got, it says. Where we at? Look, in every wind that blows, he hears sparrows. In the darkness of the night, their whispers reach him. Every animal has his guardian angel, the aurora, as it lights up the snow and rustles in the Arctic air. It is the spirits of the dead fighting in the air. The very moon, which gladdens the long Arctic night, provides their necessities, giving the Labrador Eskimo reindeer, seals, and other good things. Sun and moon worship. Right? Even with the Inuit, even with those people, right? And I just really want to get to this part. I just feel like every time I go through this, I waste time. Every time I go through this, I waste time. But they had a beastie diet, bro. Like, these people could eat. They could eat a lot. Right? A lot. They didn't clean their food. They ate raw flesh. And, right, they just had beastie diets. And a lot of that comes from their ancestry, right? It comes from their ancestry. Now, people, I want y'all to understand this, right? The way you eat, your body type, right, it operates on an ancestral level. So whatever your ancestors used to eat, right, however they ate, what they lived by, you know, what supplied their nourishment or supplied them with food, basically is what's supposed to be digested in your body. I'll give you a good example, right? If I overdo certain heavy foods, I know I'm gonna be, you know, I'm gonna be full, extremely full, but I gotta eat some type of fruits because I know it's gonna help me digest that food. And it's about digestion, right? Look, check this out. They ate berries. They ate berries. The people never tasted vegetables. In the summer, animal food is alone deemed essential. Carbon is supplied to the system by the use of much oil and fat in the diet. Much oil and fat. So they ate heavy food, seal, blubber, whale, blubber. Right? It's like being a polar bear, literally. For the Eskimo, for the Inuit. It's like being a polar bear. Look, the Eskimos are enormous eaters and take most of their food raw or in frozen condition. To eat 8 or 9 pounds of meat is not accounted an extraordinary feat. A man will lie on his back while his wife feeds him with the tidbits of flesh and blubber when he is utterly unable to move himself. Now, we just saw that it just said that they were such gluttons. They would eat as much meat as 50 of the native inhabitants. Will walks shit down. There's a connection with all of these people, right? And I mentioned the Inuit because they are not of the same archetype of the ancestors that our Aboriginal ancestors came with, right? Because if that's the case, we would be able to do the same thing. You go try eating 8 to 9 pounds of whale fat. You're going to die. You will get sick from overeating and you will die. You probably pass out. You might not die, but you probably pass out. Right? 8 or 9 pounds of meat. That's crazy. But look, they ate their food raw and in frozen condition. Eaters of raw flesh. They massacred the men of neighboring parts without mercy and killed the women by their brutal violations. The wretched Indians often tried to devise some means to rid themselves of these troublesome visitors, but they never had sufficient force or courage to attack them. And this always brings me back to this too. Now that we're talking about it, it brings me back to the Nephilim. The Nephilim, because guess what? Guess what these people were? They were sun worshippers. They were sun worshippers. The Nephilim were sun worshippers. Giants. They were giants. So if Nephilim were sun worshippers, they saying these Tartars are giants and they were sun worshippers, then would the Tartars be ancestors of the descendants of the Nephilim? Like if we talking on a biblical scale? Right? So that takes us back to, can we say all skin is kin? Hell nah. Because I'm 5'11" and my mother's 5'4" and my father's only 6'1". I don't have a giant bone in my body. Right, so secure from all apprehension, these new monsters thus tyrannized for a long while, committing the most infamous enormities. Divine justice sent fire from heaven with a great noise, and an angel armed with a flaming sword, by whom they were destroyed at one blow. To serve an eternal monument of the vengeance of God, their bones and skulls were not consumed by the fire, but are found at the very place of an enormous size. I have heard Spaniards say that they have seen bits of their teeth, by which they judged that a tooth weighed more than half a pound. As for the rest, it is not known from what place they came, nor by what route they arrived. I learned this year when I was at the Ville of de Rios, Lima, that during the viceroyalty of Don Anthony Mendoza in New Spain, bows had been found there of a still greater size than the above mentioned. I have also heard that in the city of Mexico, some had been found in an old sculpture, and also in another place in the same kingdom. We may infer from this that these giants have existed, and that's what authors have written about them is not fabulous. Another wonderful thing is that at Cape St. Helens there are springs of liquid pitch, which is fit for the purpose of shipbuilding. Peru, like the rest of the New World, was originally possessed by small independent tribes, differing from each other in manners in their forms of rude policy. What did I tell y'all? Right, when we go and look at it, the facts, the Snapple facts, right, the Snapple facts, you got mad different peoples, different tribes. Yeah, they like that robbery. Nah, for real though. Bruce Lee, what up, my boy? Nah, for real though. They like that blubbery stuff. Pause. But see, look, different groups of peoples, right? Different groups of peoples. Sun worshippers, South America. Different groups of peoples. Right, like I'll bring it back to this one. All different groups of peoples coming from different places in the Southeast Asia. Peru, like the rest of the New World, was originally possessed by small independent tribes differing from each other's in manners and their forms of rude policy. All, however, are said to have been so little civilized that they must be classed among the most unimproved savages of America, roaming about naked in the forest. They were still in this state when we are told they appeared on the banks of Lake Titicaca, a man and a woman of majestic form, and clothed in decent garments. They were persons of excellent shape and beauty, and the dresses they wore were such as contained afterwards the usual habits of the Incas, by which title they described themselves. The names of these personages were Mongol, who afterwards received his subjects the title of Capac, which means sole emperor, splendid and rich virtue, in that his wife, who is said to have been his sister, his wife was his sister. And Mongol Capac claimed that they were the children of the sun and the moon. This is a lot similar to the Tammuz, right? The Tammuz Ishtar story. It's a lot similar. That's why I say you find traces of every religion here in America. It's a lot similar. But yeah. His sister was Koya Mama Oela Huaco. Mongol and Koya Mama told the first people who came about them that they were children of the sun and the moon, and that their father, taking pity of the miserable condition of mankind, right, not man, mankind, had sent them to reclaim them from their savage lives, to give them laws, teach them, and here we got the emperors, y'all. These same black folks, right, that's them. Got the emperors. To teach them morality and to worship the sun, who gave life to all creatures and makes the plants and herbs grow for the uses of mankind. And in fine, that they were expressly sent to rule them for their benefit and happiness with the same care and goodness with which their great father ruled the world. Right? They're calling the sun a person, basically. They're saying sun is the most high. But the Most High is the creator of the sun. So this sun and moon worship stuff, this is why I say, like, back, Renzo. Back, because you're losing me with this one. Because I love the sun, but I don't love that sun too much. Right? I love God and everything that comes with that. Right, Mango had in his hand a rod of gold, 2 fingers thick and half an ell in length. He said that his father, the sun, had given it to him and told him that when he traveled northward from the lake, whenever he rested, he was to strike the rod down into the ground, and where at the first stroke it should go down to the top, and on that spot he should build a temple to the sun and fix the seat of his government. This man is basically saying, they comparing this to the Moses and his staff, Moses and his staff. The staff of God. Right, they trying to say that was a staff, but we know the staff was turned into a snake. It wasn't made of gold. He turned the staff into snake, but God could do whatever he want. Right, like turn it into a burning bush. But he turned the staff into a snake. He didn't, this got nothing to do with that. But this would be the sun and moon worship version of the story, I guess, right? This happened in the Vale of Cusco, where he founded that city as the capital of his kingdom. He divided his company into 2 colonies and called one high and the other low, Cusco. And each of these were at first 1,000 families, which he caused to be registered by the quipos, or strings of several colors with knots of several kinds and colors upon them, which was all that was required in a government where there were neither letters, money, nor disputes. Mango instituted decurions, one over every 10 families, one over every 50, one over 100, and one over 500, and one over 1,000. The last was called Curaca, or governor. They were censors, patrons, and judges in small controversies. Idleness was punished with stripes. Each colony had a supreme judge. Every man had one lawful wife, with the liberty of keeping other women. Theft, murders, disobedience to all officers, and adultery were punished chiefly with death, in order not to leave a bad man more incensed or necessitated to commit new crimes. A son's possessions were never forfeited for his father's offenses. These laws had so good an effect that sometimes a year passed without one execution. See, this was like Rome, or like America today, right? Even like with the RICO, just like the RICO, like If you an associate, you getting booked too, right? Stopping people from committing crimes, implementing specific laws and stuff, adopting a specific societal way of living from ancient societies like the Mongolian Empire, the Great Khan, right? And we know the Romans and the Khan, right, their style of their structures weren't too far. I mean, they weren't too far. They weren't too different. That's how these empires were able to grow the way they did, right? But everything that has a start has a finish line, right? That's how I call it, right? Things can start and be beautiful and filled with joy, but it can also end, right? It can be ended quick, super quick. Lost track. Mongol Capac taught his subjects to sow maize at certain seasons to preserve it against others, to build houses and to clothe themselves, right? Maize being the, right, cultivation fruit or vegetable. Sorry, the vegetable of cultivation, right? Even with these sun worshippers, they was using maize, right, to cultivate the land. Koyamama taught the woman to spin and to weave cotton to coarse wool, and they were both obeyed like children of the sun sent from heaven to govern the people. Mongol assembled all his kurakas, his governors, and told them that his father, the sun, had commanded him to extend his institutions and orders as far as he was able for the good and happiness of mankind. Blasphemy. Blasphemy. He's saying that God told him that he got the green light to colonize more land, right? God gave him the green light to go out there and pacify and colonize other groups of peoples, right? And this is blasphemy, right? Because no one is given that power, yet people take advantage of it. No man on earth shall have this type of power, because we see what happens when man is given this power, right? They do devilish things, very devilish and demonic things. And for this purpose, with armed troops to go to those remote parts which had not yet been visited, and to reduce them to their observance, that the sun had commanded him not to hurt or offend those who would submit to him, and thereby accept of the good and happiness thus offered by divine bounty, but to distress only such as refuse without killing any except those who assailed them, and then it would be just to do so in their own defense. For this purpose, Mongol, about 6 or 7 years after his arrival, formed troops of men armed with bows, arrows, spears, and clubs, but chiefly as defensive weapons. Right, you jacking defense, but you going out and you colonizing other lands, right? What you gonna do if somebody say no? You gonna massacre them, right? That's not defense. That's not defense. Not one bit. There's nothing defensive about that. That's straight up offense. That's get down or lay down, right? State property, for real. The military establishment was constituted and arranged in the same order as the civil government. An officer was appointed over every 10 men, and another over every 50, one over 100, 500, and 1,000, a sixth over 500, and a seventh as a general, over 10,000, of which number his first army was composed. With this and other armies, he reduced many new territories under his empire, declaring to every people he approached the same things which had been related to the first inhabitants who he had seen near the Great Lake. Those who submitted were received into the same rights and enjoyments as the rest of his subjects. Those who refused were distressed and pursued by his troops, right? You got weapons, that's offense, not defense, till they were necessitated to accept his offers and conditions. The forces of Mongol Capac never used offensive weapons. You can't say that. That's offense. That's like playing a basketball game and being on the away team, right? You go to another person's court. You going to play to win. You're not going to lose. That's offense. is when people pull up and you only there to defend. That's defense. But everything they just stated, that's offense. That's nothing but offense. So let's get that straight right there. We're going to nip that in the bud. They never used weapons until they were attacked. But then the troops fell on their enemies and killed them without mercy, not sparing even those who yielded after an obstinate resistance. Those who submitted without oppression were immediately received into grace and were permitted to touch the sacred person of the Inca, and were allowed in common with the soldiers of the army to feast for several days, when they were incorporated as subjects of the empire, and clothes were distributed to them, and corn was given them to sow. The conquest of Mongol extended to the river Puacamatumbo on the east, about 30 leagues on the western side, 8 leagues and 9 on the south. These territories were divided into 4 provinces, over each of which he appointed an Inca as a viceroy, having many sons grown up fit to command, and in each of them established 3 supreme. This is just like the Mongols, by the way, that's why I put that. But look, bloodline, through the bloodline, straight up, right? Each of them established 3 supreme councils of justice, war, and revenue, and over each an Inca was also appointed a president. These institutions continued ever the same. After a long and adored reign, at the approach of the last period of life, Mongol Capac called together all his children and grandchildren. He told them that he was going to respond himself with his father. He was going to repose himself with his father, right? Go back to connect with his pops, basically merging with the son, telling the people he's going to merge with the son. He left his empire to his eldest son and advised and charged them all to continue in the paths of reason and virtue which he had taught them until they followed him on the same journey, and that this was the only course by which they could prove themselves true children of the sun and such be honored and esteemed. This is what created that human sacrifice hierarchy, right? Like you're not worthy enough until you're ready to devote your life and give your life to the Father, right? Like Far Cry 5, right? This is straight up nasty timing. Like, just imagine living in a world where you cannot say thank you God without having someone cut open your chest and give your heart to show that you support them, right? That's crazy, bro. I'd rather put $1 in the tithe bowl, which I hate so much, before I would ever think of doing so. I'm not sacrificing myself for nobody, not unless it's my family and it's a life or death situation. But for nobody, you shit me? So I say this don't follow the ways, man, because I cannot relate to it, and my gut will always tell me what's meant for me, right? When your mind, heart, and gut, your soul, your body aligns up with the structures and the ways of life, then you know what's going on, right? We cannot connect to that. I don't care what the Moors may say, right? And I love my Moorish brothers and sisters, the ones who claim that they Moors and Fezzes and whatnot. I rock with them 130%, but like I said, Moor is just a term for black people. So what are you truly representing, right? That's idolatry. You're mimicking something, right? You can just go outside and be yourself and still be a Moor, right? You can go outside with basketball shorts and a tank top and you can still be a Moor. So I don't want to hear, oh, they were Moors, blah, nah. That's cool, bro. All that is cool, but at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, I'm not with that sacrificing stuff, right? Paganism, no matter if it's not devil worship or not, bro. I'm not with that. It don't float this boat, not this boat. This boat won't float with the waves of the Most High, baby. If you could relate to that one, gotta drop a comment. I ain't gonna lie. But yeah, so let's continue. He commanded his successor, whose name was Senchi Roka. That's kind of like a Chinese or Japanese sort of kind of name, right? Senchi. To govern his people with justice, mercy, pity, clemency, and care of the poor. And that when he should go to rest with his father, the sun, he should give the same instructions and exhortations to his successor. Right, look, the first progenitors of the Incas did not think proper to disclose to the Indians whence they really came or what was their true origin. Incas are not Indians, right, or Aborigines, let's say that. Their views required a different method of proceeding. Mongol had ordained that no subject should have more than one wife, and she was to be of his own family. Also, that no man be permitted to marry until the age of 20 years, no woman under 16. The Incas were to have but one lawful wife, who was called Koya, and was always to be their sister, for the better preservation of the royal blood, right? They wanted to preserve the royal blood, like I said, just like with the Khans. Right, Khans and Tartars, they brought that stuff over here with them. That societal structure. When one of them was of the royal family, she was named a Pala, but if not, she was called a Maktuna or a matron. Mongol left also many sons by his concubines. He died beloved by his subject as a father and was adorned by them as a demigod, like I said. Right, Mongol Kapak, you wasn't really a believer if you wasn't ready to give your heart. One thing I will rock with is this though, right? They had innumerable sacrifices of all sorts of beasts, birds, and fruits. Right? First fruits of the harvest, animals, some, right? Some of those things, you know, is ways people been doing stuff like that for thousands of years, right? So it kind of connects, but we still got to take into consideration that this sacrificing stuff is crazy. This human sacrifice stuff is nuts, right? It's mind-blowing, right? But it says it's supposed that he reigned 30 or 40 years. The Indians attributed all of their laws, civil or religious, to Mongol Kapak, which they thought had been communicated to him by his father, the sun. But their laws were either new or reformed from ancient times, reintroduced, brought over here from an old civilization, thus to create and enhance a new one. This is all truth. The Incas pretended that one of their kings was a great legislator. They say that he was a sovereign priest, and further that he was a renowned captain who conquered a great number of provinces and kingdoms. But with all these fine pretensions, they can give us no particulars either of his laws or sacrifices. Therefore, to escape from this labyrinth, they attribute everything to Mongol Kapak, whether of the institutions or the foundation of their empire. Right, and now they start talking about the different sons, right? The sons that get into the family or whatever. But I don't want to blow the roof off with that one, right? I just want to remember, right? Let's just remember the Swarthy Tartars, right? These people correspond closely to what we popularly regard as Mongolian. They are all dark or black haired with swarthy skins. They are peculiarly beardless, bullet heads, high cheekbones, squint eyes, lank hair, round faces. These Inca. Now, another thing that I just wanted to bring right before we conclude this whole situation, this whole live stream, right? I wanted to talk about the origins, right, of these religions. Right? This is where most of those like religions get their beliefs from, right? Vedicism was a polytheistic sacrificial religion involving the worship of numerous male divinities and a few goddesses, most of whom were connected with the sky and natural phenomena. These priests who officiated at the worship were drawn from the Brahman social class. What religions come from right, and hopefully we can pick up where these religions come from, right? The Vedas created Brahmanism, Dharma, which transpired into Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, and Christianity. Vedism, remember that, Vedism is the religion of the Indo-European peoples who entered India about 1500 BCE from the present-day Iran. The Vedas. The Vedas. Right? This polytheistic way, however you pronounce it, ways of worship and religious beliefs, sun and moon worship, come from Vedism. So when you hear about that, right, or like even Egyptians, or like all of those other religions, or whatever the case may be, it has some type of root to Vedism. Paganism, the beliefs of many gods and whatnot, right? This is where a lot of people prior to the introductions of religions or whatever, they was rocking with this type of stuff, and this is how it was able to spread throughout the world, right? Different peoples brought it to different places all over the world, and whatever the case may be. So this is the origins of that. So basically, essentially, in a nutshell, what Mongol Capac brought over here to America was Vedism. And already some of the people within America were already like following a Vedic belief system, technically. Polytheism, right? Emerald worship, with the exception of the cannibals and the folks who was just out here eating people or something and stuff like that. They weren't civilized. So you real life had uncivilized people in the Americas. Real life. And they were black too, so it's a lot. But we just dropped a bomb. Y'all now know, right, some of the origins of the Mongol invasions, the Mongol and Tarter invasions of America. From the northern tip, we're going to talk about, all the way down to the southern tip. We're going to talk about the Inuits, the West Coast tribes, how some of the tribes in the East Coast look the way they look today. You know, I also wanted to show y'all this, right? I almost forgot. Right, we got to look at this, because if you look at the people today of Peru, you got to make it make sense, bro. What do they look like? What do they look like? They look Chinese. They look Chinese, but like I told y'all, like I showed y'all, right? A lot of their ancestry is Australian, Melanese, or Sub-Saharan. So these people of Peru, just look at them. They look like your modern Native Americans. Right now we know where that blood comes from. We now know and understand where that blood comes from. Oh yeah, you know we gonna go crazy all the time. And I say that in the most humblest way. Cause I don't ever like plan, like when I plan to make my videos, I just try to like gather as much information as possible. And I break it down. I pre-break this stuff down before I even bring it up here. Like I pre-break it down because it has to make sense. We gotta make it make sense. If it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. Right? And we adding up the coin with this, right? We building a pot of information. The revenue is the information. The get back is the information. The get back is the waking up of the people, right? The get back is to show and prove to everybody out there who believes that we came from Africa. It is a goddamn lie. The greatest lie your teacher told you. Promise you. I promise you. I promise you, man. I promise you. But you know what? I thank y'all for tuning in, man. For everybody who did tune in, I appreciate it. Y'all showed me a good amount of love today. We're going to keep trying to build the platform, keep trying to build the fan base, keep trying to build this comment section, because I just love when people have something to say. Like put your information in there, ask questions, you know, do stuff like that, because at the end of the day, it might be something that I might not know, and a question that you may ask might bring an answer for the both of us, or for all of us, everybody that's in the live stream. You know, I'm sure there's people out there that got these questions today, like, all right, well, if my grandmother said we had Indian in our blood, how come when I look at Indians today, they look like that? They don't look like me, they look like that. Which causes an even more greater confusion in the brain, because when you look in the mirror, you don't know what you're exactly looking at. Yes, you see a black person. Yes, you see a beautiful melanated king or queen. Yes, that's for sure, without a doubt. But what lies within? What lies deeper within? You know, that blood. What lies deeper within? Something to dawn on, think about, you know, when you look in the mirror, you know, when you brushing your teeth, ask yourself that question, right? And then work on finding the answer. But yeah, I ain't gonna continue to chat, man. Like I said, I appreciate those who tuned in. You can follow all social medias, you know, Copper Color King, Breaking the Black Barrier, Morals and Money, platform for creators, man, all that. Subscribe, Instagram, TikTok. Feel free to even rush the donations, man. Cash App King Willow 1015. Feel free to shoot. Listen, man, we got a coloring book that's supposed to be dropping soon, man. I pray to God Amazon let me get that through, because the minute I do, we rushing that, man. First 10 people, right? Our first 10 people to get involved and click the link when I drop it, you getting a free copy. For sure. Free copy. I'm spending $100 of my own money to make sure people get them copies. And give these coloring books for your kids, because in these coloring books we got images, right? Images that are not linked to anything that may come from any African history, right? It's all indigenous, right? And it will create that bullet or that bug. I mean, that it'll create that bug in their head that'll have them asking that question. Well, like, what is this, mommy? What is this, daddy? You know, what does this have to do with me? Right? And then you could always bring them back here, or explain it to them themselves, right? This is your ancestry, right? This is you. This is you. This is where you come from, right? Have them in class popping they ish. When they start talking that Marcus Garvey, have them in class talking that ish. Like, nah, mom and pops already told me. Time to have my kids, for sure. Like, comment, and subscribe, man. I love y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get it.